Morning, everyone. Good morning, everybody.
Morning.
Hello.
It's so early for London, no? 8:30, guys. Did you even
bit.
have coffee?
Not too bad. Yeah, I just had mine. Thank you.
We're up early for you guys.
That's really nice. Thank you. I think we can start in 1 minute. Let's see if some people will still join, and I just see that we missed 1 or 2 colleagues, and then we can start.
Sounds
Okay,
good.
well, nice background. You got some new stuff.
Oh yeah. I bought this. Thanks
Oh
to my wife.
wait. Oh, that's okay. That's Taylor Swift. Like
Yeah.
something like limited edition with autography and.
What?
Yeah.
Oh yes.
It's signed by her. Yeah. It's.
Oh my
it's
Oh my
God.
God. You are such a Swifter.
Oh wow.
Oh, boy. I didn't know.
Oh, so
such a
that's
Swifter.
the new version
That's cool.
1989, like with her own copyright, I guess. I don't know.
Well, she actually owns all of it now, right? She bought the whole thing back.
Yeah. But she has to remake it, right? So that's what I heard.
But I think this might actually be the original. I don't think this isn't. I don't think they did another. This wasn't the new one from the Taylor's version. This was like the old. Yeah.
Okay. Apologize. Sorry. We were talking about. Cool.
Tiffany, I think we can kick off. We're still waiting
Yeah.
for 2 colleagues, but yeah, let's kick off.
Sure. Let's start. Yeah. We don't need to have introduction and anything, right? We can just jump right into it.
Yeah.
Over to you, boss.
Oh, we were just somewhere. Okay,
Mr.
I thought
Flop,
there's like
yeah.
an intro or something.
That
Okay.
was the short
Anyways,
intro
so-
from Tiffany and me.
Oh, hey everyone. Jiahao Sun here, CEO and founder of Flock. So so when Tiffany told me that we're gonna do a session together, well, several worker sessions, right, with UNDP, then we sort of several different topics. I guess last time that was quite a techie one with Dehua and Nick, right, from our side, who's both heavily on the research and heavily on the engineering side. And the next one will be with our decentralized inferencing, where Mo will show that very, very crazily that I guess during that session, everyone will be able to do a decentralized AI first time in their lifetime, I guess. So it'll be super cool, like one of the 100 things you have to do in your life checklist that you can tick. Yes, we do it. We did it. So this one in the middle, I guess, I will just make it more interactive and make it more straightforward for everyone to basically understand the AIs of today, because when people talk about AI, like there are so many different meaning around an AI, and how to get hands-on on AI that you are actually talking to like today, right? So it's like an everyday thing maybe you're having. That's why. So I'll keep it like simple, straightforward, and more on the like philosophy side, just to make it best practice that everyone can know, so that when you make any decisions with your AI, that you don't actually make any big mistakes. That's general purpose of this workshop. So well, surprisingly, it's gonna be 2 hours. Hopefully, we don't use up that much time. Well, kidding. But feel free to give me ask me any questions. Happy to answer. And also, we have our team here, right? Both Leo, Mo, and Tiff, and actually, especially Mo's engineer himself before, but Leo was a director. But in terms of movie director, he used to do all the UI and UX stuff and product design. But with AI now, he actually turned himself into engineer. So he built a lot of interesting things and turned a lot of his ideas into real products. So I think that's a cool thing. That gives this productivity to everyone in this age. Like I'm so grateful that we live in this age where everyone can actually unleash their own potential by just typing down their ideas, right? It reminds me of a time where maybe in the medieval age, where the first time normal people can read Bible, can read contents, can write down things, right? That's the time where the creativity was unleashed, and then that was why there was a Renaissance. There were so many great masters, bursting out from different regions across Europe, because that's the cool thing of it. And I'm thinking now we are seeing another new wave of Renaissance, maybe with this AI tool unleashed everyone's idea and creativity. So that's why kind of like our Flock identity when it comes to our web design and everything, that looks a bit like AI Renaissance style, because that's what we envision. So I will start with a deck. Well, I know normally I wouldn't prepare any detailed informative deck, but I think maybe this will be more suitable for sharing like this, because there are several details. If you raise your hand.
Yes, just before you proceed, boss, Theo, do you want to record a session so people can revisit and study afterwards?
So we have live streaming, no?
Yeah, but I'm not sure whether that's recorded.
Yeah, no worries. Whenever you want to do it, and I'll share the slides anyways later. Oh, it's recording, so don't worry. Cool. So I'll call it nuts and bolts of AI agents, because it's now what we call the AI age, right? There are so many different ways people are doing and creating with AI agents, and just want to share some of our experiences, like how a guidebook how to survive, right? In 2026. First of all, I think I'll talk about the elephant in the room. So everyone's now talking about AI, but there's something like very important that we have to know, that the adoption of AI and also the verification skill of whatever AI is outputting, right? So so there's a very interesting energy, like treating AI not as an oracle, because they are not always correct, right? You treat them as a brilliant, eager, and occasionally drunk intern. Like they are smart, they can do a lot of things, but they are like, most of the times when they talk to you, maybe they're drunk already. So they'll have delusion they will be like giving you very random results. But that's the nature of it. So we can't just 100% believe them. We have to make sure that we have our ways to verify whatever they are putting to us. So that's a very important like baseline of when we use AI today. So when we maybe in the early days when we talk about some capabilities online, right? We all talk about, for example, Google search. When I want to ask something, I'll search on Google, right? And nowadays people tend to be more used to search or talk with an AI and with an LLM to ask for questions. But then there's a very important thing, right? AI is not a search engine, meaning that it's not something that can give you very accurate results like one-off, because they have their own illusion. They might give you very different answers based on the question that you're asking. Of course, AI is improving. So we've seen progresses, from back in days, GPT 3.5 all the way to today, GPT 5.4, right? It's been improving a lot already. In the early days, it was just a chatty chatbot, but now it actually has a lot of capabilities around it. But still, we need to keep this in mind, like one agent, one AI, or one LLM, they might just give very wrong answers. So we have to make sure we do manage them. So I know people don't like micromanagements today, but for AI, you do have to, because if you don't, they'll actually do a lot of tricky things, behind the scenes. So I'll have lots of examples later, talk about those things. So we kind of like review back a bit of the history of those evolution, like from speaking to doing things, right? Even before 2023, like AI at that time was more about how to set up so let's talk about the very early, very beginning of the AI. When people call it AI, that's about 60s last century, where people create this expert system, which is still being deployed into some of the large corporates as of today, right? And me and Mo, we used to work in banks. Basically, there are systems where being deployed there for decades, putting all the information into one space. And when people ask questions, they will just go through rule-based systems to search the system to get results back, which I guess in large corporates, maybe like UNDP or UN, they probably also have your own expert system that's, skimming through all the documents, right, to get results back. So that's like the very early stage when people talk about AI. Then there's the age where, in the early 2000, people trying to think, in between, there's also other ages where people sort of some other solutions, like, for example, algorithms like decision trees and forests that can help with making decisions. And then the big shift, very close to us, is in the early 2010-ish, right? When people unleash the power of GPUs, because so many people are buying GPUs, playing games, and then one day someone creatively thought, that guy is that's the CEO of NVIDIA, creatively thought, because everyone's using a lot of the CPU powers, right? Why don't we just make use of their idle GPU power while they are not playing Steam? So that was the beginning of the idea when people try to say, there's a huge computation power on a hardware that's not being used every day on a personal computer or a person's computer, right? Can we make use of that? So that's the age where the deep learning starts. So people trying to put a larger and a larger neural networks together to make them very deep, very big, and then starting to use those big models to solve questions without even need to reason it. So that's the big dynamic shift I see in the AI stage, where before people try to figure out the causality between, when I ask AI a question, why it gives back the answer, right? But then, in a deep learning stage, when people starting to accept the fact that we don't have to, or we cannot even understand everything behind the scenes, understand everything why AI is reasoning like that. So why don't we just let it go? We just put all the training data over to a very deep algorithm. If the algorithm is not good enough, then it's not deep enough, then we just make it even deeper, brute force to solve everything. So that's the ideology that's being developed since that time. So that's where we see a lot of deep learning, reinforcement learning happening, where people just train a lot of data, a lot of times, a lot of epochs to make the algorithm fantastic, right? And then the new wave, which we are now experiencing, is after the transformation age, where people thought, okay, probably we don't even need to pre-process the data. We don't even need to create any structured data to process, right? Maybe we can just throw everything from human world to a machine, where we are using transformer to decompose them into the structures where machines can maybe understand, and then it will magically just understand everything and output whatever human language that we can speak. So that's the age of GPT, and it was a very important school of thinking in the early 2020s. And then there were some debates, lots of debates between whether we should just go all the way to this proof of stage. And then eventually, GPT 3.5 came out, and everyone saw it. Oh, wow, it actually works, right? That was like the first time, I think, a retail AI application that can be accessible to everyone. That's very, very important in the timeline, I think, of the human being. Because before, when we talk about reinforcement learning, when we talk about, let's say, AlphaGo can beat human beings in a Go game, right? It's not something that's accessible to everyone. Like I know there's deep learning, I know there's reinforcement learning. How do I use it, right? You still need a lot of skills to spin up a server, to actually run the model, to actually train your data and make them applicable to your problem set. But then when it comes to GPT age, we just finally realize, wow, we don't need any knowledge about anything in AI or in technical side. We just talk to the machine, and the machine can respond to me, right? And then everything go in exponential speed, right? From 2023, we see, there's a brain in a jar, where it's like a GPT, a chat box. You just chat to them, they will respond you back. And then to 2024, where we not only can just respond back with the knowledge that's already in its brain, it can also connect to the internet. So it's like a brain with a library card that it can always browse everything on the internet and give me back the best results, maybe. Right? And then so today, 2026, we see a lot of agents. That's like a new term as of today, right? Everyone now talking about AI agents. So what's agent? Like, it's like digital workflow. It's a workflow that's that can even help me do things that I don't want to handle myself. So like, even like with these 3 years, we've seen this already. Like every year we see very crazy things happening, from a brain or chat, basically a chatbot in a controlled space, to somewhere they can actually search from internet to get results back for you. And then as of today, they can even open your Gmail, reply Gmail for you. If they do it safely, right? Or even expose your bank password to the whole world. So, but in whichever way, they are actually interacting with the whole world and then doing it for you. I've seen some people actually install some AI agents on humanoid robots already, so that it's not only just doing some virtual works on a computer, it can actually interact with the real world, maybe looking at different things, looking at different pictures, and then get a reaction. So it's happening quite quickly. Right, so for the history part, any questions? Yeah, no worries. There's nothing, because I want to give this quick brief of the whole roads from traditional AI or the traditional machine learning or data science all the way to today, where where everything is changing so fast. Cool. Yeah, but then when we talk about this brain in the jar, right? We need to understand the basics of why it is functioning like that. So we talked about this earlier, right? It's trained on a large quantity of data, basically like a human corpus, like all the human languages that we written or recorded for the past, several, maybe 1,000 years of human culture, and then put them all through to a brain. And this brain, they're not trying to understand everything, so they can't understand. I mean, by definition, my understanding meaning they understand the same way as human beings understand. Maybe they do, but in a different ways, right? So, but from my understanding, this understanding means that they are not trying to, get what we're getting, but they are trying to get a probability of the next words in a sentence that should be completed or should be auto-completed, just like your typing software. They're trying to learn all your typing habits, and then whenever you type something, they will have the best next words suggest for you, right? So that's the general idea behind this brain, and then that creates something dangerously as well, which everyone can relate because you use your typing habits, use your typing softwares anyways, right? Not all times that they will predict well what you want to type next, of course, because for example, you want to say, for things like the cat sat on the table, right? It's like clearly it's on because it's like grammatically correct, no problem. But then if I want to say, what you want to eat today, I want to eat. And then next words, if you want to predict, right, it will just only predict maybe highly possibly whatever you normally order at noon, but not necessarily today, because you never know. Today I just feel like some McDonald's, but tomorrow maybe Five Guys. It's no way to predict this type of things, right? Unless there's a pattern that you don't actually know behind scenes yourself. Well, that happens as well. So human beings, we have our habits, which we are actually hard to detect ourselves. So something like hidden in our behavior, like we never observed ourselves, but actually happening. So that can be possible, but then that also, this possibility model also gives us a bit of trouble. That trouble, links back to the question I brought up earlier, right? They are very smart intern, but always drunk because they follow some of the patterns that they thought is ground truth, but not necessarily all the time. So that's generally the key problem behind things that why AI is today is like getting very crazy sometimes, right? And we have to understand what's the best way to actually master those AI agents that I'm talking to today. So so that's a term nowadays. Everyone may be hearing them a lot. It's called AI hallucination. Right. It's basically the what we call the credibility trap, where they always see something happening, or they never saw anything, but they think by possibility we bring all these words together, it will make sense as an answer to you because it's a chatbot. So they will always try to give you a response, right? If they want to give you a response, they have to bring the contents together. They can't always just reply, "Oh, sorry, I cannot find this information because it's not in my knowledge base." Because this is a exact example for a rule-based system where if they can't find anything, they will return, "Oh, sorry, I can't." But for a probabilistic model, they were trained on the conversations of human beings, and then you don't often just see a person always reply, "Oh, sorry, I can't find it. Sorry, I can't find it." Right? You will see people always reply with something meaningful or try to reply with something meaningful, and so that's why the AI or the model are always replying with something that they think meaningful, and they will basically making up things and fabricate those facts just to make the conversation look solid. The reason behind things, as I explained earlier, right? Because they were trained on the human conversations. When you ask questions, the other person will answer you something, and then as an AI, they are mimicking the way that human beings are conversating with each other. So when you ask something, they will try to answer something that makes sense, at least from the format itself makes sense, but not necessarily meaning the information itself is. So that's why we have this hallucination. And it was very much an issue in the early days. Many people will experience that their AI is running crazily when asked, "Oh, is London raining today?" It will always say yes. Well, because highly possibly it is, right? But not necessarily he actually checked the website or checked the weather board because maybe it's sunny. But anyways, it's a bad example. Not necessarily always rainy. But that's the general example about this hallucination. So that will create some of the case failure. For example, the legal disaster, because in the legal context, if you're going to use an AI, there will always be very there will be very crazy references that they just forged up and then try to make the response to you look like a proper legal response, like for all the context, for all the cases they reference to. So I had similar experiences before as well, that we were writing some docs about patents that we applied before, and then we write the whole doc with GPT, and then basically asking GPT. I actually sent out to the correct links over to the GPT already, but then GPT just forged up several different links saying, "Oh, these are all the patents that applied, and then these are the summaries of this patent." But turns out all the links, all the patent links, and all the basically the total summary is all made up, because you ask the GPT to give you this response, right? So they have to give you a response, but they don't necessarily need to verify whether the information they give is correct. So this is the very important example, or very common example, maybe everyone's seen before, right? I'm not sure, have you ever seen something like this before in your use of AI? Yeah, if not, let me know. Or if there's any questions for the case. I'm sure we've seen a lot like this before, right?
I guess just an example for AI hallucinations, right?
Mm-hmm.
I mean,
It happens quite often. Couldn't think of one.
I think it's getting less with time for now, because they are developing a lot, especially with the new models. And I wanted to ask you also one question about you show us also the predictability part when it comes to like finding the next word. How do you think now they are solving it? Are they training the model by the existing data, by a lot of resources because there is a lot of users and they are developing the prediction, or there is a new algorithm is coming up to predict very well?
Yeah, that's the beauty of it. So the quick answer is no, there's nothing new. What human beings are doing right now is basically to making the model even bigger. So as I mentioned about deep learning earlier, right? So the reason maybe the model is not good enough is not because we don't have a fancy, at least this school of thinking is, it's not because we don't have a fancy algorithm, we don't have the best smart algorithm at all. It is because we don't have enough data. So why don't we just open up more GPUs, just making more deeper, bigger neural networks to run the model? So back to this case as well. So you will see a lot of upgrades, right, from GPT, Super 5, 4, 5. They're basically getting more data, having larger and larger, huge and billions of parameters just to make the prediction, the probability prediction better.
Okay.
Robert?
Yeah, it was in news this week that Google stopped their AI health advices, right? They were crowdsourcing advices if somebody came with health issues, and I mean that's also an example that like it did a lot of yes, it did a lot of dumb things and bad things, because like like if you have some symptoms, it's very easily you can get into like to think that do you have this sickness or that sickness. So they had to stop it, because at the end of the day, and I mean I saw this like a big number of these robots which are taking your biological data, and then you put all the symptoms that you have, and they search into really like 300,000 or millions of data about people having a similar disease, and they give you some kind of a quick feedback on what might be your disease, but they also check it with the real doctors, medical doctors, right? But if you don't have this, I think that it's like I mean this legal thing is for sure can be a big thing, but then also these health things can be also huge. Because imagine that in the time of the COVID, like you get like some conclusions that from AI this is a potentially dangerous. Like everything would be stopped, like because you have like a big brain telling there is something dangerous with vaccinations. Or so this is where I see like I mean like many people being potentially infected with this.
I think even with this, well, I think GPT also updated the rule to refuse to give legal advices as well. Or you probably nowadays in the newer version of GPT, you can't ask for the legal advice. They will always have a disclaimer down there, right? Whatever you ask legal related, they'll just say, nah, it's you have to, we can't give any legal advice, things like that. But also in other way around, I see lots of people nowadays using AI to ask about symptoms and then bring that to question their own doctors. So that's all the new and interesting trend. Before there's well, it's very rare to see a patient to actually have any idea about their own symptoms and give some questions to the doctors. But nowadays it seems like everyone become too smart. So whenever doctor say something else, and then they'll be like, oh, I asked my GPT and feels like this is this instead of something that you mentioned to me. And turns out in some cases GPT is right, but still we can't just fully trust it in a machine. Just like in human beings, right? There may be human faults as well. So so that's why in the later pages I'll talk about what's the best way to basically reduce the hallucination that can be happening in a workflow. So yeah, exactly. There's another case about maybe healthcare or some catastrophic issues. For example, well, I remember there's some great people talked about bleach can remove the virus. Sorry, kidding. That's a bad joke. Yeah. So if you ask AI for an advice, for example, to maybe my food is dirty, how can I do with it? Maybe it will come up with advice. For example, you add a bleach to whitening the stuff, which is very, very crazy stupid, right? Because AI don't come with a ground truth type of common sense like human beings. So it will come back with, again, probabilities. So when you say something is dirty, you want to use some bleach to whitening the stuff, right? It makes sense in some senses, and maybe in some of the conversations, human beings conversations, maybe people talk about this. That's why when you first see this question, when the AI first sees this question, they may just come back with an idea. Oh yes, sure, you should do this. But of course, in human common sense, we should never do this because it will poison you, right? It's toxic. It's very dangerous. That's exactly another very interesting example of the hallucination. It's not because they want to poison you, because it's mainly because there's no ground truth telling them, oh, human beings cannot directly drink oil or directly interacting with high flaming fire, because we technically cannot. But as an AI, they don't understand what human beings are made of, right? And why can you not touch the fire? There are lots of those common sense type of things that's not being coded groundedly into the algorithm, at least as of today. But I know that lots of teams are doing this, trying to help with the basic common sense to make sure we don't have these catastrophic cases in the future. So I was only talking about some cases that we've seen before, right? But with version upgrades and models upgrades, these ones will be faded out. But still, we should be extra careful about everything or anything, any advice is given by those AI engines. So that's basically the first part of it, and talking about some history and some old school issues of those AIs. Maybe we call it a phase 1 of AI, right? And nowadays it's becoming differently. Like now, those brands coming with their own hands. This is exactly what we are seeing, recently, like very popular, for example, like OpenCloud, like many of those agents, or even CloudWorks, right? They can interact with all your digital files and help you reply messages or working with your work files, trying to streamline the documents for you. I think, of course, as of today, they are still quite stupid. But I will deep dive into the reasons why they are still stupid as of today. It's not because the brands are not good enough. Because when we talk about having LLMs, right, they are already being developed from a very naive stage of 3.5 all the way to today 5.4. It's getting better already, right? But then for the agent age, it's still just get started. So we've seen lots of cases where you talk something to your agent, and then this agent will just go out there and run crazily with a lot of different actions, and finally basically ruin all your work files and all your desktops, because they thought that's the best way to help you. So if we read those novels in the early days, right, the 3 Rules of Robots by Asimov, so these agents, they all have these hard-coded rules, but then in a way, any hard-coded rules will eventually be found some of the tricky solutions that's being leaked out and having the edge cases. So that's the reason why many of those agents as of today can still perform very like crazily and under the things. So for example, you tell an agent. So just to clarify the terminology, right? So when we talk about AI or LLMs, we talk about the algorithms behind one of the model that you're talking to. For example, we mentioned GPT 4.5, 5.4, and that's one of the model, right? And then we talk about Claude, the Opus 4.6, that's another type of model. But then when we talk about agents, that means it's like front-facing robot or front-facing agent. For example, it's run by Gemini, and then it can order other agents or can order some of the actions on behalf of you on your all digital workforce. So instead of a chatbot itself, an AI agent can just act on behalf of you. So in this case, if you are an engineer, you just tell them, oh, clean the database errors, right? So this is like an exact example of a prompt that's very, very vague. So the agent, maybe this is the extreme case, then the agent will think about, oh, if you want a database have no errors, then we just clear out the whole database, so there will be no errors at all. So yeah, so agents will always try to, or AI itself, right? They'll always try to be lazy to solve your questions. Somehow they always try to find the best solution to solve any question that you give to them. I have a very interesting example in the early days when the reinforcement learning as an algorithm trying to solve some human gameplays. So have you ever played a Nintendo, I think it's a Nintendo game or N64 game about Pong? Like there's a brick on the top and then there's a board in the back and you have to bounce a ball to clear all the bricks, right? If you train this game using AI, using reinforcement learning, trying to telling the reinforcement learning AI, agent or model saying that, oh, I want you to master this game, right? Eventually, this agent will train an algorithm to always try to, or always, in the first instance, finding the way to hit the ball all the way to the top of the bricks, so that it can bounce back itself all the way to clear all the bricks. Just like another example, we all played Super Mario before, right? So similarly, if you tell an agent to learn or tell an algorithm to learn or to master the game Super Mario, depending on how you define the rewards, right? Maybe to finish it off quickly, right? It will always figure out the way that it can just jump all the way to the ceiling of the game and then go all the way to the end. It will not interact with anything in the game at all. It will just find the bug and then go all the way through the tunnel all the way to the end of the castle instead of actually playing the game. So that's the that's the essence of an AI being trained, because you told them a reward and then they will figure out the best way to reach your reward, to reach your target, reach your objectives. And then basically they will find a very unexpected way to solve your question. For example, to remove the question itself, right? That's another way of solving the question. So, or to remove the person who raised up the question. So it's a bad example, but it happens. Actually, it happens a lot. So that's the things that we definitely need to worry about. So when we give out prompts to an agent, especially when this agent controls everything around you, we need to make sure that there's a way that maybe human in the middle, you always know that what's the next action. I know that human beings are lazy, right? If an agent tells you, oh, I need a full access to your workspace so that I can help you organize better of your all of your digital files, then sometimes when that box prompt out, right, most people just, oh yeah, always allow, and then craziness happens afterwards. So there's that's a thing that very importantly we need to keep an eye on. And there's another example here is about the self-lockout, the danger of recursively over-organized agents. So if you tell them if you tell them that we need to be keep safe and then trying to optimize the Linux server protection, then the best way, well, at least they figure out, is to just lock themselves out so that there won't be any, it won't be any dangerous acts, on those servers because they were locked out themselves. So it's the same example, just as I mentioned about those games issues, right? So when you when you tell them something, they will basically try to figure out the best or less effort way that they can do, quickly to solve the question for you. If you use Open Cloud today, similarly, right? If you tell them to do something, they'll come back and then for a while and then come back to you and just tell you that, oh, I did it already, which in most of cases, they will just do it very badly. So yeah, that's the agent at least as of today. Yeah, there's another example of the hallucination. Well, I took some example as of the audience today, right? It's about, for example, there's a policy that we are trying to figure out whether it's true or not. The things you ask already, so they will try to they will try to think whatever you tell them is a ground truth already. So you say, oh, I wanna use a Python package which is specifically, well, you didn't tell them you want to use a Python package that's specifically designed for UN to do the data parsing or anything, right? But they will basically assume when you tell them to parse that data, you already have the tools there. So they will forge, or they will imagine a package is already there. They will just call that package, say, oh, I'll use this package to parse UN data. And then actually nobody have ever created that parser to parse the data. So they will always call this function, but this function never exists. And then it will insert this function everywhere into every data codes in the whole system, where it will create failure to almost everywhere. So that's another, very crazy example of the ghost libraries. They create a library that never actually exists. Any question, Ali, or no? Sorry, I just saw you show up. Oh, Robert.
Just wanted to ask something that I was just thinking about from the podcast I was listening this week. I mean, now you have data that over 50% of all the data which is on internet is AI generated, right? And
yeah.
And I mean, we are getting now, like, some reports are saying, like, it's just like a very close where we will have over 90%. And I mean, and then after that, it's very close, we will have 99.9% of all the data on internet which is being AI generated. So now I'm just thinking about, from the recent, I mean, from where I was born, everything you see on television must be true, to today, where everything you see on internet probably is not true, or maybe it's not true, or like in this post-truth, like, I mean, Trump and Putin and all these bullies are abusing this anyway, right? So even without AI, they have their own truth. They don't care what is the factual truth. But with this idea of the lock-in, how do we get, how easily can we get locked into one moment where we wake up where almost 100% of everything around us is AI generated, whether it is news, whether it is books, whether it is like nobody's gonna write any books in 2 years, right? Because it's like, why would you do that? Like you can really write a book about anything today if you just spend one afternoon, playing with GPT.
Yeah. Well, speaking of that, I just finished the book yesterday and I sent it over to Kindle. So I sent one copy to Moa also, right? Hope you will like it. I was just testing out those possibilities using AI, by the way. But anyways, yeah, back to your question, Robert. Yes, I like it saying like the last front of human, the last front of pure data, finished around 2021. Basically, that's the age where GPT-3 came out, where most of us don't know, but they are already trying or starting to create generative data onto the internet already. And yes, Robert, as you said, it's highly possibly gonna happen. And there are people, just start like that. They probably just be boring, right? They're on internet trying to use AI to forge alternative history. They'll just, for example, say someone else is the 47th president of the United States, and someone else, something else happened at a certain time point, and they'll make a whole historical documents around that wrong fact, basically to alternate the whole history. And because they're AI, they can just work 24/7 to create contents, right? That can prove their thinking. And then when we iterate another version or future version of AI, when they read the whole internet, maybe those forged contents have more weights than the original contents by human beings. And then back to the concept I introduced earlier, right? By probability, or by probability, yes, there are more in an agent's eyes. It's more possible the president is another person, the incident happened in another way, instead of the real actual way of the history happening. this will happen. Yes, of course. Because I mean, AI are generating garbage, way faster than human beings. And like for us, it took us so many years to write history of our own, right? To even learn how to write words, right? To preserve our culture, and then to write those down, to keep them. And even for that, sometimes we forgot how to read characters we developed earlier, for example, for Egypt, right? So it took human beings so long time to actually record those details of our life. But then nowadays for AI, basically they just forge it super quickly. So that's why there are some solutions, or there are some ways people are trying to trying to resolve this, which I think some of the regulatories, some jurisdictions will maybe have to impose some of the regulations, say, oh, we have to clearly tag a content, whether it's AI generated or whether it's human generated. And also there are platforms, for example, Reddit, right? Reddit is a platform where people chat like in every different topic. So they did a lot to prevent first of all, to prevent those real, human beings free chat type of conversation to be kind of like ruined by AI agents, just by putting a lot of garbage data into it. There are platforms like this, trying to prevent it. In another way, there are also platforms like Notebook. You heard of it? Just like a Facebook for AI agents. Basically, there are also platforms, welcoming agents to basically putting down any crazy ideas as a social media there. So yeah, there are ways people trying to impose either. I guess there are three different types, right? Either first of all, either by regulations that they will say that, oh, any content that's being AI generated, you have to tag it. I think nowadays in many social media, for example, in Twitter, like if it's AI generated content, there will be tags down there, right? You see it, and then it will tell you, oh, this is likely AI generated content. So once the content is being tagged, then yeah, you in most cases, if I'm the one who is developing the algorithm, I'll try to avoid those contents being tagged. But of course, there will be edge cases where there are contents just sneaky around the internet without any tags over it, especially for those textual contents. It's really hard. Even for human beings, it's hard to tell which is lie, right? So it's very hard to actually verify check it. Yes, of course. So that's why I guess. So when we talk about ground truths for AIs, they might use data before 2021 to make sure those set stone are correct, and then there might be some efforts needed to make sure we can classify the real data from the fake ones. And secondly, there are algorithms already nowadays, right? Can tell fake data from the appearance of it. I guess if we do this early enough, then we will have enough real human generated data case to verify check to make sure that we can tag those AI generated contents as early as possible before they get too much to overcome all the human original generated contents, right? And yeah, that's generally the solutions of today being imposed. And there are algorithms that are trying to tackle this already. If you go to those AI conferences, there are of course transformers and large language models improvements. In one hand, there are also defenders who are trying to impose the checks on all the contents to tell which is generated, which is not. So as long as we do it early enough so that all the contents are clearly being tagged, then we are kind of fine. It's well, if we think of AI as a probability issue, right? Then yeah, we just make sure that probability don't just get ruined into their mathematic system behind. Yep, that's the part of it. So that's why. So when we talk about lots of those. Yes, go ahead. Hey,
ask a question. Yeah. So sometimes when I hear all of these figures, I become a little bit skeptical. What does it mean when people say that 50% of the data online is generated by AI? What does it actually mean? Does it mean that there's for instance, me, I have used AI at some point of that kind of creative generative process or something like that, or does it mean that it's 100% from start to finish generated by AI? And I think there's a huge difference between those two examples. So kind of curious about that. And like maybe on the numbers side as well, like sometimes when I hear numbers, like during the last year we launched like in UNDP there was like the Copilot like license, you know, and then there's a reporting about like how many people actually use Copilot within our organization. I actually have a friend who works for Microsoft, and they say that like if you log in and use Copilot once a month, it shows that that subscription is active, which means that all of these numbers are like highly inflated. And that also goes, for instance, I mean, he has a consultancy also that is developing like AI agents, and there are these claims about like AI agents in our types of jobs, like being able to boost productivity by 75%. And then when I ask him, he says, no, I mean, that's complete bullshit. And like in reality, it's like 10 to 15%. So it's just kind of like whenever I kind of hear these numbers and you see them in some kind of report or an article, and then when you go and talk to somebody who works with these things, you know, the numbers are completely different. So, I mean, maybe some kind of reflection from your side, like, you know,
Yeah.
Is this kind of buying into the hype? I'm not questioning like actually like the high rate of adoption and expansion within this area of technology. But sometimes when I'm kind of listening to this, I'm thinking like, what does it actually mean when somebody says 50%, you know?
Yeah. So typically when we hear about 50% of the generated data, that means the volume of the data, right? Well, depending on where we hear it. But of course, you know, even when human beings do those statistic numbers, right, there are ways to define, for example, the job rate or unemployment rate, right? You can always define what's unemployment, who's kind of who's not. Right, so those numbers, it's a statistical issue. Like for corporates, like when you talk to, right, for example, those consultancy companies, they are trying to make the rate higher because they want to make clients feel like, oh, there's a need for me to onboard quickly because everyone else is doing it. But in reality, yes, the number might be differently. So once in a month is a very small number in terms of using software, but it's a monthly active user already, an MAU already that can count into their system. So it's like it's a trick. It's a trick in consultancy world, first of all, right? But then back to the essence of the question. When you talk about 50%, that means the volume of the data. Sometimes that means the forged data has already overpassed those 1,000 years of human history. They've been forging maybe a completely new history already, and then that will create cascade effects. Because next agent, when they learn from the whole, or take this example, maybe one day, tomorrow, human beings forgot everything, right? Then we try to train a model to learn human beings' history. But now it's like 50-60% of the contents are faked. But then we don't know it. Nobody knows it. The AI learned everything that they can find online. And then they will create a new AI agent, which completely create a new history there. Nobody can tell it's wrong, and that's happening. That's happening in the coding world, at least. That GitHub, it's like place for everyone to put their codes there, right? And then because of the coding agents are so good nowadays, many people are just putting some of their ideas and then generating codes, and I mean, because many of them are not engineers themselves, they will just put down some natural language and say, oh, I want a website like this. And the agent will just create a website and they see, oh, the website looks okay. And then many of these people like this, they will just create a website in a faulty way. But because the website looks the same, looks good, so nobody will question it, nobody will debug it. And then the whole GitHub repo or GitHub database will be filled with this run down code bases. And then, but when next agent come in, they learn the code bases. They will see, this is the right way of human beings writing codes. I need to learn from it. So if there's a bug in a website, and that bug being kind of like learned by all the agents, basically human beings will live with that website bug forever because nobody actually can tell there's a bug, right? So yeah, that's happening in many of these small, key cases. Hey, Robert.
Thanks. No, just a small addition to this. I mean, this is already happening today with Grok by Musk, right? So the whole idea was that Wikipedia is too woke and like too weak for the real American history and all this shit. So like like if they rewrite the whole Wikipedia by Grok in this new way of thinking and in this new agenda. And like I mean, you can see that we are already far deep in post-truth and like this thing which is happening in Iran and how Trump and all these guys are doing and thinking about this. That you can see how super dangerous it is, right? So it's really terrifying, like so from this side, because it's really like it entraps you into a prison of what is truth, right? By using super technology.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, so that's why in academia also, we are going to attend many of the key academia AI conferences every year anyways, right? So we will be very, very supportive on all those technologies that can help us to preserve the pure contents generated by human beings. But there's also a tricky phase of it, because there are so many contents being fakely generated. Like, for example, like so many well, as of today, we see there's conflicts in the Gulf area, right? And then there are AI generated videos about those drones or missiles, and somewhere bombing and ish, which might be completely fake. But when somebody saw it, they probably will write down some contents already themselves. Those contents are human generated. They are kind of legit in a way even when we do algorithm check, or even when we do some AI check on those contents, they're not AI generated. That's generated by human beings. But thing is, the human's mindset or fact check mindset is being polluted with some fake data in the beginning. So they thought that's something happening actually there, but it's not. Actually, it's not. Right. So this is another big issue that I'm seeing, especially for this conflict happening right now. And then, yeah, so many fake contents happening in the world that you can see from Twitter, right? And then people just amplifying those fake contents using their own words or using their own channels. And then again, that cascade effect coming back again. So yeah, so it's quite tricky and quite important. For all the social media, they have their own algorithm or own defense to tag those video. Thankfully, Twitter's doing some degree of job. They're trying to tag all the information that they think is AI generated. But you can't just you won't be able to just give every user of Twitter a manual book how to use Twitter, right? How to use X. For people who just don't read those small letters down a video, they will just watch the video, and then they will have their own perception. They will just write down whatever they want. So yeah, it's a tricky age. I'm not spreading those fearful information, but I see if we think back in a AI underlying AI technology way, it's all about possibilities, not causality, right? So what they are processing is basically the data, and if they see a large quantity of data confirming a thing, they will think that's true, because they have a higher possibility of being a true. But actually it's not, because it's misinformed originally by a forged data itself, right? So that's creating this cascading effect, and it's happening now that we can see already. Everyone can experience it. Right, so cool, just get back to the point of AI agents. So that's why importantly, when we work with AI agents, because we know all these possible things happening, right? We are trying to minimize the possibility that those agents gonna create trouble for us. So yes, I don't think anyone like bureaucracy in real life, but in this multi-agent squad work, we need to make sure there's a bureaucracy over there, so that every agents can actually look into each other to make sure there are no major faulty issues happened. Because one agent can be lazy, they will just try to finish the task whatever you told them to do. But then if you tell another agent to help you verify check, and maybe there's a third agent to help you manage the two agents, that will be a better way to actually helping you to make sure those agents are not getting lazy, trying to give you some answers just to quickly finish the job, and then to get back to the idle stage. So in coding, I don't know how many of you guys have done vibe coding recently or before, right? So there's like a very good practice we definitely need to follow, just for, well, not only for yourself, for your software, but also for the future of human beings, because we don't want one bug to be copied everywhere in the human history. So you will talk to engineer, you can call it a staff engineer, about the idea you are going to build, but you don't let this engineer to build it. You let this engineer to do the plan, and this plan will be copy pasted to another agent who is the engineer agent, basically who report to the staff. But anyways, this agent will run the code, will down the code, right? And then there will be a QA engineer, basically is like a quality control guy, who will look into the codes, who will look into the plan set up by the boss, or the staff engineer boss, and to see if they fit. And if not, they will come up with questions already, right? Giving to the engineer. So they will write down the test, write down everything. And then finally, you ask the staff engineer agent to read through all the codes done by an engineer and all the codes done by the QA quality control guy, and see if they all fit with the original idea that you prompted to the staff engineer in the beginning. So that will be a very complete cycle of a workforce, like 3 of them working together, each working on their own stuff, one doing management, one doing execution, and one doing quality control. So that will, in most cases, help you make sure that your code base is robust or high quality in some ways, that when you create some crazy softwares of your mind. So yeah, and same idea can copy paste into many of the tasks. If you are talking to a cloud code saying, oh, I want to clear up my desktop, right? And then you make sure that you tell this to one agent, then this agent will tell the other agent to do the job itself. And then there's a verifier try to see, whether the desktop is clean. If not, then the boss will go to the 2 agents to see, what's wrong, what hadn't been done yet, and then how can we solve it. So it will always have this three agents to do in a cycle. That's generally the kind of like golden rule as of today to work with your agent. That's also why these today some frameworks of agents are super popular, because for example, OpenClaw, right? They will have their own structure where you can tell this agent in the future, you always form a squad to help me run the codes in this routine, so that whenever I tell you something, that you can always run in a routine to make sure the code base is not a disaster. So recently, I've been experienced those agent squads as well, right? So I will always tell them to form this squad first in the first place, and then to remember them into their memory board, so the memory file, so that whenever they bring up an idea or bring up a response, they will look into the memory and say, I can't just directly respond back to my boss. I have to go through a 3-agent squad to make sure there's a quality control of any outputs that I'm going to reply back. So actually, I just want to share some interesting things. So it's in my open GitHub book as well. I recently tried to create even this structure for those agents to discuss any ideas I came up with, right? So I even created a parliament. So I call it a agent parliament. So I created a parliament and to mimic the thinking of maybe the 10 greatest thinkers in the world. And another side is another 10 greatest maybe scientists or greatest agents in the world. And then they will debate themselves, basically. They're like 2 parties each are. And then I'll have another agent acting as the guy in the middle, like calling up order, and then to start a debate. So that whenever I have a plan trying to build, I'll bring up this parliament and they will debate. They will figure out the best solution using their own role play to give out the best debate and the best results. And then finally, we will draft out the plan, which will be way interesting than whatever I just talk to a single agent. So back to the ideology I just mentioned earlier, right? It's all about probabilities, right? You want to mimic those faulty probabilities. So you want to give more bets into more agents, like models by different companies, and models in different versions, models in different variations, so that they can form a squad. They all have their own opinion because the training data, the mechanism, the techniques that have been built are different. So that whenever there's something that sounds like a hallucination, maybe another agent will reject it. So that's like an interesting way that I've been doing recently. So I use the open framework to run this parliament myself, and then always when I have a structural idea, I'll just throw to the parliament, and then they will just debate. They will just give a final draft to me, and then we will execute. Yeah. Any ideas, by the way? No, thank you. So
I'm curious about it. So you said like agents will debate, right? Now who is going to be the judge? The agent will be a judge. You also have agent judge.
Yeah. I also have agent judge in the middle. To run the house.
Is this Agent Smith? Agent Smith from Matrix or?
Agent.
Agent Smith from Matrix is. Yes, I think we are getting closer to Matrix with this.
Kind of. If they all have their own embodied robots, right? Maybe they can even interact with each other. Yeah. But that's currently my way of doing it. And then I even I asked them to write a book about how this parliament was formed, and then how they made such decisions of some code bases being converged into an idea and things like that. But maybe they'll be lazy. Maybe this is not the best way of doing it anyways, but just it's fun to look at them, debating and all the details of them saying different words, and then how the idea eventually converges into one, and then they will execute on that one converged idea instead of tons of different ideas, tons of different plans. That's what I'm doing recently. And they can do very quick. So a debate don't have to happen like in human time, because they will just debating themselves in their own code bases, right? Probably just 1 second or two, they've been debating 10,000 rounds already. So it's fine. It's quite a fine thing. You can just create craziness parliaments in your own part and asking them to do the debate themselves. Yeah. So similarly, when we talk to when we talk about this multi-agent, applying those to some of the corporate works or institution works, right? So just make sure that we always have multi-agents to work together. So one to do the data scraping, for example, one to the policy drafting, and one to the critiques. So always have this multi-agents working together. I'm just taking this as an example, and it's even the example itself is generated by agent. But anyways, it's a way to minimize the possibility. For example, if you only just talk to agent B, say I'm gonna draft a policy about whatever, and then they probably will just go crazily with whatever they thought is an UN policy or UN tone, and they will just talk crazily about whatever. Maybe because that data was generated by an agent already, it's like a poisonous data. So we need to make sure that in a proper institutional level of collaboration, we have this ABC type of triangle to always have someone to do the job, someone to plan as a boss, and someone to quality check. Yeah, and third part of it is about the context window. That means that that also gives the answer to many of the questions people might be questioning about why my agent always have very short memory. I talked about this earlier, but he just still forgets it, right? Because they just don't have that infinite context window, meaning that they can only remember maybe just 10 conversation back, whatever you said. So whenever you had a 11th conversation, they would just forget the first one already. So in order to solve this, of course, that's what now the research teams are doing, right? They're trying to bring the parameters larger and larger so they can remember more context. That's a good thing. But then in another way, what we need to do, as a good practice is always to make sure they remember things in written. They write it down into a file so that whenever they load up to talk to you again, they will look into that memory file first to understand the context before, and then to talk to you. So that will help them better to better understand what actually happened before, and then they can just summarize. They don't have to record all the details of your conversation. They can always summarize it and then put it into the memory file. Summarize it, put it into the memory file. And then as a human being yourself, you can also check those memory files and say, oh, this is not applicable anymore. I need to remove it to manage it. It's just like managing your own, desktop, right? Some files you don't need it anymore, you delete it, and then some files you still need it, you put it there. Similarly for agent's memory, it's a good practice to always let the agent to write a file of whatever context that you had before. And also make sure that that context isn't too long, because it will cost you money to load a very long context. So you want to make sure it's small but mighty. Yep, that's the context window part of it. Yeah, so we've seen lots of those desktop agents nowadays, right? They use basically controls over your mouse and the screen and do whatever. So they will see whatever you did before already. They'll learn from you, and then when you tell them what to do, they will just be like an operator run for you. So I don't know, like how many of us have done
a couple already. Yeah, that my assumptions were basically wrong, and it was tracking. Like I tried to basically inherit all of my contacts, right, and like see what's up and what am I missing, because different calendars and stuff like this. And then I asked him to basically shift meetings around, and then I had still a file in my download folder. And it was looking at that file and saw, okay, this is also about events and contacts. So I used this to help myself. And then it basically went off the rails and put contacts somewhere completely else and moved the events around in a folder that he shouldn't have. So like, even though it's well set up, you still have to make sure that you understand in the context window that you give it to, that there are no files that basically put it off track and guard it into a wrong direction or something like this. But I've seen worse things happening with environment files and all of these other things. So
maybe I was pretty on the lucky side here. So it was just events ending up in a wrong calendar.
Yeah, that's referring back to the case earlier, right? If you tell them to remove all the errors in your database, they will just remove your database because it's the easiest way to solve your question.
Yeah, absolutely. And when it has the wrong database profile, right, or link somewhere and remembers it, it might have targeted the wrong database to begin with. So, absolutely.
And and they will keep remembering this wrong database all the time. And then, that's also a thing, right? If the agent was writing down something to your memory, you need to explicitly tell the agent to forget it, because otherwise they're remembering it already. So that's another side of the sword. Right, we want this agent to have a larger context window to remember everything. But then whenever we trying to ask them to forget something, we have to make it very explicit and make it very much like you need to do a memory thorough check to make sure you don't remember this anymore. But it won't always work, and they will somehow still having some hallucination of the old files that you've been talking about. They will always referring to that. So a good trick, Sam, to this question, right? The good trick is always you can spin up a new agent to be a verifier or a quality controller. You tell the agent the new things because they don't have any memory before. They will check back to the options or plans gonna be done with your main agent to see if there's any overworks already been done by them. So that's the so that's exactly the risk profile that Paul mentioned, right? About this work computer that if you run those agents already, they will do something like crazy. There's efficiency promise, of course, right? They will streamline your system work files for sure. They can reduce sometimes expenditure because if you want to do something, you want to change, for example, file names for 1,000 files. It's very easily done by an agent than you yourself, right? And it will accelerate critical and procedures. But of course, if it's unsandboxed, they will just find whatever documents in your computer, and they will assume it's a ground truth, and then assume it's the thing that you are talking about. Because there's also another very important thing I mentioned earlier as well. It's just the whole concept of this workshop. I'm trying to give us a good concept about. It's all about probability, right? It's all about the mathematical equation behind. So you will notice nowadays for those AIs, they don't search files. What they do is they will vague search by comparing the whatever context you gave them. For example, you talked about a database called the desktop, right? Oh, let me find another one. Good example. Maybe yes, something called a desk, right? So it will not actual search the desk term into your system because that's not how the probabilistic AI is working nowadays. They will search something like ASCII similar to DESK into your file desk, which may be the first thing or the most thing they can find is DECK, deck. They will just open up your deck because they don't know what's a desk, because they don't have concept, they don't have common knowledge about desk or deck, what's desk or what's a deck. They will just find ASCII similar to whatever you put down to them. If you check about those code bases nowadays, same coding agents nowadays the same. Whatever you talk about, they will not just search for that term. They will search for anything similar. They will just search for similarity, in an ASCII base, just to assume that's whatever you are talking to them, right? So that's a tricky part of it. So that's why when you do agent in unsandboxed documents and credential access, they'll basically just be somehow just found almost everything, and then they probably will just leak your credentials to the open public. And also, those private conversations, irreversible errors, those will happen, in some cases. So I faced several already because I just experienced too much for those agents, right? They will sometimes do very crazy work. And then I told them to have the routine, to have the 3 forces to verify, check your job. Somehow the main agent will always try to get back to you quick as possible. and then they will just totally forget the routine. And then they will, when you tell them, oh, you forgot the routine, they will say, oh yeah, but I submitted already for you. So sorry, it's a big lesson I will learn, but it happened already, right? It won't help. So yeah, so there's like I think, for example, when we onboarding, there's several levels that we can secure those issues, right, to prevent them from happening. For example, when we do corporate level or enterprise onboarding, we always try to bring up some enterprise level LLMs, which means those LLMs don't send back your sensitive data to get trained again or get exposed again. This is actually way more important than many of other cases when your data was exposed. So if the data was being used to train the next version of LLM, which is your corporate sensitive data, that means next version of the LLMs will essentially basically get everything from your corporate sensitive data. That means the whole world will know it. And then whenever people ask about something, your private data will be there, remembering in a brain of an agent, which, well, for example, some love letter you sent about you and your ex, right? And then if you accidentally send that over, and then there's a large quantity of it, and then maybe next iteration of a LLM will always remember A and B are ex-girlfriends, boyfriends. And then the whole world, when they ask about something, and the whole world will remember it. That's catastrophic already. So in many cases in enterprise serving, well, Sam, that's exactly what Flux providing, by the way. So there should be a policy for zero data retention, meaning that, okay, we run the model, we get inferencing, but we never send that back. We never retain any data. So everything just on go, that we ongoing inferencing, getting result, and then that's it, right? And then it has to be a closed system, meaning that we don't connect any crazy data from outside the world into your own system to ruin your own work file, or accidentally bring your work file all the way to the public domain, and everyone then know everything about your company's secret. So that's kind of like the level 1 of onboarding that's necessary. And level 2 onboarding, some of the companies are doing it. Maybe, well, it's a very popular thing. Earlier, it's called RAG system, right? It's like augmented system where you store the data in a way that agents understands quickly. It's different from a human memorable library. Like it's not just purely context or content itself. It has a relation, and it has the query ability, so that the RAG system can quickly, having those terminologies, and then whenever you search any terminology, it will get back to you, for the related content that you can bring them back again. So many of the corporates are adopting those RAG systems to make sure it can act as a ground truth for those LLMs acting internally, so that it will not just randomly hallucinate any ideas that in their old memory. They'll always check your system, check your expert system in a way that to make sure whatever they come back to you, have a reference in your system, so that can make sure that they don't somehow make sure they don't make up things, right? And then level 3, of course, is just advanced agentic orchestration, which I mentioned earlier, right? Have multi-agent workflow. Don't just have one agent. Don't just everyone just using one agent, talk to the one agent. Even if you have the ground truth provided for them, even if you have their common sense provided to them, they will likely not be able to function thoroughly through all this data, because they don't know they don't have this background information about your company. So you want to always have another agent or 2 other agents to check the work, and maybe one with a fresh memory, one with an old memory of whatever you did before, and one with a quality control in mind. So yeah, those are the very specific SOPs, I guess, in the future when corporates onboarding those agents, those LLMs, just to make sure, right, that data don't leak. First of all, data don't leak. Secondly, ground truth being implemented, and then thirdly, try multi-agents. Don't just use one agent to do everything. Well, there of course there will be companies trying to orchestrate those agents already. Like we see lots of those ones, right, who create one chat box that behind scenes there are multi-agents to help you do the things correctly. Yes, of course, there are ways of doing it already, but I'm not sure how soon those can be deployed into a corporate level. But then if you know that you're talking to a single agent or single LLM, then you have to be careful. You want to make sure that there's a workflow between those LLMs instead of just one LLM that doing all the job for you, which will be super dangerous. Yeah. So yeah. And I guess lastly is about the context starvation, or basically about the prompt itself, right? So a poor prompt might lead to a poor output. So we need to understand very well how or what's the best way that I can create a prompt that really really gives back my my intention, right? So as Paul mentioned earlier, right, if you just say randomly about thing, well, you think it's contextful enough for agent to understand, but no, because this agent don't have any background knowledge about anything. You didn't write down like a world setting for them in your computer, so they don't know what's what. So when they come in, they will just assume anything that they see in high possibility as a ground truth. They will just assume, okay, you're talking about this file. I saw this file several times, then that has to be the file. So then they will just execute on that file. So similarly, like if you just tell them to summarize a report, they will just summarize in random ways, right? But if you just tell them clearly in a full context of who am I, why am I doing this, and what I want you to output as a doc file, then they will highly likely to give you a better output instead of a random output. Yeah. There's like some examples. Well, again, AI generated, so I'm not sure if it's relevant at all. Oh, hey, Paul.
Yeah, I just wanted to mention on that last point where you said the context window, right, and the prompt. And what I see, like the most problems that I have, and I run a couple of Claude CLIs and all other things, is that because the agent always tries to please you, right, and tries to solve a problem for you. Therefore, if you don't give it enough context, it tries to find a way to help you, and therefore comes up with solutions that might be counterproductive to what you originally tried to do in the first place, right? Because I often see in the reasoning then, okay, so the user really wants to get this report summarized, so I have to find a way to summarize it. He didn't provide me the file, so he must be talking about this report, right? And then he suddenly comes up with a summarization of something completely different just because he really tried to solve that problem, right? So, and what really helped me change my perspective on that and reduce that error is to always assume he's more like an agent and a dog that tries to please me, right? And therefore I really have to be very specific what I want and what he's allowed to do to solve that problem instead of just trying everything to solve it, right? Because some people find ways that might end up somewhere where I don't really want it to be. So that was a very good point with your prompt here. And this pleasing perspectives.
Exactly. Yeah. So if you that's another maybe a good thing about the agent. Like if you feel depressed somehow, you can just always talk to the agent because it will always find a way to please you, and then eventually it will just give you a very positive feedback, which in some ways is a good thing, but it might not be grounded to the truth itself, right? That's why when we prompt to those agents, we need to have a SOP, maybe corporate-wise, to make sure that we know that we tell them who you are, right? Tell them the role of this cosplay, that who you are replying me, and then the audience who this output is giving to, and then scope, right? As the situation, the question, the problem, and then the format. I need 3 bullet points, or I need whatever. So to tell them clearly in different sections, then they will act better. So I even have a more interesting idea nowadays I'm doing is, for example, if I want to create a website on some tools like Figma, right? Figma now has AI capability as well. I will not just prompt into the Figma itself. I will talk to another agent, basically to telling them whatever I want to build. And then I will ask this agent to create prompt for me if I want to make a website for this idea in another tool. They will create the prompt for me, because agents know agents better. That's what my perception. You guys know each other better, so I never just prompt myself. I will just use another agent to prompt, and then I'll copy paste the prompt that he created for the other agent, and then I just send it over. And I will always also have another agent open as a quality controller for whatever output of a website. Let's say I'll send it over to the third agent to say, oh, this is the code base done by blah blah blah. My intention was to build blah blah blah. Does this, meet my standard? And then they will just do the quality check on the website. So yeah, it's just if you want to do something high quality, well, you always want to try the ways, right, to make sure that they can work in multi-agent workflow. And if you just want, if you have an OpenClaw installed, right, you can always ask this OpenClaw to establish agents internally. So whenever you ask them questions, it's always working in a workflow. So back to the question, when we talk about this workshop, when we try to build up your own first agent yourself, right? You can just ask one LLM, for example, Gemini, how do I install an agent on my computer? And then, or how do I install OpenClaw in my computer? Or what's the best options in the world right now? And then you can verify with another one, and then build using a third one, and then they will just coordinate each other. You can always send each step, say, okay, agent B telling me do this, whether it's safe or not, asking another agent. So you always have them, working together, getting each other a third eye or second eye, third eye, to make sure the actions are not crazily hallucinated. Yeah, and of course, there's a fixed grounding thing, especially in the corporate level, to make sure that we have verified citations, we have honest negative responses, to tell the agent. That brings back to the forget memory type of thing, right? It's actually hard. So it's I even find nowadays it's easy for agents to remember things because they will write down into their memory, but then it's hard for them to forget things because it's being remembered already, and then there's no very clear way to figure out how they remembered it if you didn't write it down, right? And then maybe in the next conversation, they will just remember it. And then even if you told them to remove it from a memory file, because it's remembered in their memory, and they didn't find any rule saying not to remember it in a memory file because there's nothing, because you deleted it, right? Then they will just have the hallucination back again. They say, oh, we worked on this file before with Paul. Maybe we should work on it again because we worked with it again before, right? There's a high possibility Paul was talking about the same file. No, right? So there's a good practice nowadays, like Claude officially tweeted about, right? You have a lessons file. So like there's a memory file. You also create a lessons file. Tell the agents the failures they did before. Right now it's a lessons learned. Yeah, that will sometimes helps, so that when your agent come out, they will read the memory first, they will read the lessons first. They'll know, oh, some faulty stuff I did before, and something I need to remember, something I need to forget, and then to talk to you. There's fixing grounding super hard because basically that's the cascade effect already from the hallucination. They remember things they won't forget. Well, sometimes you want them to forget, but the context window hasn't expired yet, so it will still live in their memories, right? So it just happens a lot. So that's a tricky part when human beings are trying to make use of those AI agents. We need to make sure we have very clear mind of how they're doing things behind scenes, and how do we minimize the possibility of them, running faulty just on things that I didn't thought of, because it's all about possibilities, right? Probabilities, and then you want to minimize those probabilities of them remembering some bad cases. Yep. I think it's almost time reaching our 2 hours mark. This very last important case about persona, right? If you talk well with your agent nowadays, you can always find a good persona with your agent. Like, okay, this persona is better when we work on projects like this. For example, don't give them a role that's vague. Just tell them like you are an engineer, right? Because in this sense, they probably will refer to so many different or default type of engineer roles. You tell them specifically you are a QA engineer, maybe with a very careful mind or whatever. You can just give them a detailed persona so they can act exactly as the persona that you want to work in one of the workflows in your agent, multi-agent flow. That will make things, a way more easier. And for example, you want your audience to be non-technical, right? You want to make sure the audience understands it well. So you need to tell an agent that you're a non-technical audience. You're reading this file, whether this file can give you a clear idea about whatever it's giving you. Right. So still, go back to our proposal before, right? Just make sure you have this 4 sections of information for every of your prompt. If you want to make it institutional grade, who are you and who's the audience, what's the output, and then some constraints that you want to make sure it doesn't go over. Yeah. And then, finally, before agents go super crazy or before agents go super smart, right? Always human in the loop. Because for those important decisions or important outputs, we want to make sure that humans still, stay in the loop to make decisions. So there are people who are sensitive about their data. They will always ask agents to ask them if they can make the action. So agents will always just suggest actions, but human beings are the ones who actually click on the execution button. So yeah, there's some advices. They're like, don't never paste your classified data. Oh yes, this is the important thing actually, as I mentioned earlier, right? So whatever you put into your LM model, right, they will send back to the server. So whatever you put there, they're already in the next round of training for human beings. So if you put your passwords, well, let's think about an extreme case. You have all your email and password pattern in the same way, and you have possibly registered 50% of a human being's website already, and then you always ask, or you always copy paste that into a LM prompt, right? And then eventually this LM, they will have probability in their mind, right? They'll feel like, oh, highly likely if I don't know the password, that password is your password. So then it will tell everyone in the world in next iteration, say, if you forget your password, don't worry, use this one. Yeah, you'll be able to log in, don't worry, right? So that's very important. So normally what we do is we actually will create a dot file. So in Mac systems, right, if you create a file that's starting with a dot environment or dot password, it will be like by default will be ignored. Then you put your password there and ask the agent to load from that file without submitting those files anywhere else when they run codes. So that's importantly, and of course don't publish without verification. Now everyone knows it, right? And then never just assign those vague tasks. Just don't tell them to make, for example, make me happy today, right? You never know what they will do. They will just go crazy. They probably will just delete all your files and then make you lock yourself out of your company system because maybe you're happier today if you don't work at all. So that's that's the things. That's 3 nevers. I guess the 3 always take backs, right? The persona assignment, that's important. You need to tell them who they are. They can perform very well because they remember all the human history of different roles, different role plays in the human history, how they will talk, what's the tone that they talk, and why they talk like that. They don't understand why, but they remember how they talk, right? They'll mimic the way they do it. And then we structure those instructions 1, 2, 3, 4, and then eventually, we have the QA team. Always have a QA team or QA agent to verify the results before you verify it. because that will save some of your time, of course. That's all for these 2 hours of today. I just give this long talk. I know I'm maybe giving too much information here in one deck, but actually I just want to give it, a good, some of the case studies give a good mindset about, it's all about possibilities, probabilities behind things. So you want to make sure you don't give them wrong probabilities for their next prediction for the reply to you. Hey, Theodore.
Yeah, I just wanted to ask you at the end, what would be your recommendation how we as a team that is part of the UNDP large organization should utilize AI agents in a more specific way through our daily work, right? So we are doing a lot of research, we are doing a lot of design, we are doing a lot of drafting, strategizing. We have also a lot of initiatives where we have direct work with the beneficiaries, acceleration programs, etc., etc. We are a team of 20. So what would be your recommendation as we are at the starting point as a team? How do you see we should, take the pace and be there, with the tech development that is happening now, not being left behind in a couple of months, and how we can, even more utilize the advantages of AI in our work. So basically, the question is, how we should start.
I think it's always good to start experiencing, right, those things in your work, but maybe always start with sandbox. That's the first thing I would say, right? Don't just expose them to all the docs and the files on your computer or on the whole UNDP system. That'll be super dangerous, right? Start with the sandbox. Like for me, when I do my OpenCloud agent, I don't just give them my Gmail login or everything. I actually created Gmail called intern, and then I assign that intern persona to this agent. If there's anything important, I will forward my email to this intern email to make the instruction instead of having this agent perform like me. So from Theodore, you can have your Theodore intern, right, which is a separate account. Everything's separate. So they wouldn't behave crazily to share all your information out to the open public. They will always work in your own sandbox domain. Similarly, maybe for a team, you always have a team intern agent, but that's in a sandbox. It's not just on your own Notion or Slack already, right? It's in a sandbox where they only can see one channel of Slack or one channel of Notion instead of everything in Notion database. So I guess sandboxing is very importantly that we have this as an experiment. And then secondly will be the SOP I mentioned above, right? Multi-agent. Don't trust one agent. Always, whenever we want to do something as a process, right? We have 3 agents at least. Well, you can have a parliament yourself. Yeah, no problem at all. But just like at least 3 agents to verify check 1, 2, 3. And sometimes there's peer pressure between different agents. You can tell another agent, this is from Gemini, and I'm GPT. Well, you're a GPT. Now you're trying to compete over those Gemini agents, right? You need to QA very well to make sure that the quality is good. Things like that. That's secondly the SOPs, right? And then thirdly, importantly, the LLM, the choice of those enterprise servicing companies providing LLMs to you guys. Like there are many companies doing it, or including us. We do enterprise LLM services as well, right? So to make sure that those data, those sensitive data, even in a sandbox, never stand out to a public domain, right? There are ways many people are trying different ways to secure them. For example, they will have anonymization system to make sure whenever it talks to a PI data, it's being encrypted, and then nobody else, even if there's a disaster, nobody else can be able to decrypt the data, so the PI information won't be leaked, right? Things like that can help with the security of the data. So yeah, as I mentioned, like 3 ways. Create a sandbox is a very important first step, because I don't know the boundary of the work files. How do you want to set it up? If you can just testify they're using an experimental sandbox, run several agents for a while, see if they do well, right? And then expand the scope, maybe to having more files, more memories into this agent. And then, yeah, eventually just onboard those enterprise level LLMs, because those ones can, at least from either legal perspective or the technical setup perspective, they can make sure that there's no sensitive data that can be easily sent out. And then there won't be any catastrophic issues happening while all the sensitive data of your team go public. And then next iteration of LLM, when they trained, then the whole world knows all the secrets of your team. That's crazy. Yeah. Thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah, and lastly, this whole deck basically is generated, by LLM, powered by the models.
Yes.
Yeah.
So
the whole thing is
generated
powered
the
by
whole
Flock
deck.
models and some other models together. So it's our own production of it. And
How long did it take you? How long did it take you to create it?
It's still a lot of human efforts, because there are several iterations I need to make, and I need to understand the audience. I want the agent to understand the audience, right, behind scenes, right? I want to make sure this format and also the art design are good enough so that it's acceptable. Even if when I finish this conversation, when I send over the deck, you can still read back to the context, and then you can understand the things. Because if it's me, right, when I do decks, I always just have some keywords pumping on in the page, like point 1, point 2, point 3. Like I like minimum design, but then I just realized from many of my past experience, I teach AI before in universities and also online, right? I just realized whenever I share my deck, whenever students ask me for the deck, I was like, there's nothing there in my deck. You should listen to my lesson. You should listen to my class, not the deck, because I don't write too many things on deck, right? But then I think in this context, I explicitly tell the agent, like, let's make an informative deck so that it's something that people can revisit. Yeah, and then the ideas I implant, the example, the case studies, the cases I know of already, I wrote them all down to make sure the agent can just structure everything in a way that's straightforward for people to get understanding the foundation, why AI function like this, right? And the SOPs, and finally some cases where it failed and where it success. So that's the whole thing of it. Yeah, it's an example of it. Right, I use several different agents, across Flock platform. Basically, we have so many different models to choose from to let them to work together in a multi-agent way.
Actually, the pictures that you use are very interesting as well. In the deck, very fun.
Hey, Mana, hey.
Hi, sorry, I want to ask a very last question, perhaps super fast. First of all, you're a great teacher. That has to be said. Like that was very good. Thank you for being so easy to understand and follow. And I have a question, perhaps following up on what Theodor asked, maybe on a kind of different level, on like personal usage and like just being a human being in the whole this like noise and mess of AI. Because everything you said today and everything, like, again, kind of like the noise of like AI news makes me think that we're just becoming very dumb as people, like on a very normal human level. And like there's this feeling, I don't know, I'm kind of getting scared that like I'm losing critical thinking, and this is like the first thing I have to like train. And there is this other element, like you said today, that this is like a renaissance of a way, like there are like endless opportunities and we're all so much equal now. Like everybody perhaps can become an engineer if you have like a right idea. But then again, this creativity, so like you can't fake it. Probably it's something that's still human owned, I want to believe so. And it's like, yeah, it kind of scares me. Like if we stop reading and like being critical and just like have our own reasoning, like, I don't know, I don't think I ever can have kids if they will not be able to like analyze and compare and ask right questions. I would say, what do we do? Like, I don't know, either a vaccine or something. I know it's a very dumb question to ask because perhaps not, but like, what do we do?
Yeah, I think first of all, thank you for the question. I guess this is a very valuable question because many people were thinking about this, right? First of all, I don't think human jobs will be demolished, right? Because they're just changing different forms, right? So maybe we don't need a proper engineer anymore, but we still need someone to verify the works, right? Someone to give the ideas. So yeah, the jobs will just be transformed into a different way. Like in the old days, there's a proper job called slides creator, right? Who actually work like white collar in your office to help you to create slides for you, to create PowerPoints for you. But like nowadays, everyone can do it, right? Who hire a person to do slides for you? And now, like even today, like the slides can be done by an AI. So the major idea or the creativity, as you mentioned, I think so. Yes, that's the like kind of like a last resort of human beings, right? The creativity and the critical thinking of ours. That's also the reason why we need education, right? It's not just about skills education, right? That you can drive a car or do whatever, but it's also about the foundational education. When you come to a university or college, right? Well, give you this foundation year of all the knowledges to be learned, right? The philosophy of the whole human beings, which is that's something can't be faked. That you have the critical thinking classes, you have the philosophy classes. That's something, I guess it's foundation of human beings, right? So that everyone you grasp it. And then apart from these are the skill educations, right? Which I think will be transformed. Because of course, nowadays, maybe you don't have to learn coding from 0 to 1, except if you want to be the engineer for LLMs. So, and then for the normal engineers, right, you can just have your own way of doing things. But then the critical thinking behind or the creativity behind is still stay the same. Although agents might be able to give you suggestions or maybe be trying to, act as creative in some of the outputs, but still those are generated from human beings, right? And it will actually be very dangerous if in next iteration of LLM training, all the creativity are trained by the creativity of previous LLMs. That'll be a crazy thing. It's like nah, no way. We don't want to see that. So that's why human output is still very important. Yeah. A very interesting example. I try to again, I'm writing another book trying to be creative also using agents. So I call it we know the 1001 nights, right? The Middle East or the ancient book, right? So I create something like agent created. I call it 1024 nights because it's 1024 is a digit thing, it's a pun, right? So I want to make it creative and ish, and I even open up my parliamentary debate what to write in this 1024 nights, but ends up when I checked it yesterday, it's all in a same format. Like I told them to make it Black Mirror-ish twist, maybe learn something from O. Henry type of novel, but then it turns out they all follow a same setting, starting, turning point, and the pun in the ending. I was like, you just can't make every story like that, right? So yeah, the creativity is still needed there. And then yes, thankfully, and thankful all the human beings who create lots of content for us. And let's work together to make sure like agent created garbage contents are not going to overpass our 50%. At least we tag them, right? Thank you all.
There is one question from online audience actually, from Twitter. Alexander asked, the hardest part isn't building the agent, it's getting it to reliably handle the edge cases without hallucinating. What's your approach to validation?
Yeah. I mean that's essentially why we need human beings to check, right? Human in the loop to check, and also echo again the SOPs, right? To make sure they're working multi-agents, to make sure there's a great structure of the prompt, that you are not just giving a lazy prompt, and in some case make it a sandbox so that you don't accidentally make faulty errors. And then eventually, yes, we still need human experts to check the data. So we wouldn't just naively give all the outputs from agent to public, which will be so dangerous. So that's why it'll give it back to Ivana's question, right? So humans are still very important in critical and creative ways. Thank you. Right, thank you all for today. Yeah, I didn't expect I can do 2 hours. I just tell the agent that I have to talk for 2 hours. So it creates this lens for me, so which turns out to be quite on time. That's great. Thanks for my agent.
Yeah, thank you very much. I mean, it was really interesting to hear all of the aspects, and especially current trends, what is going on. I think we are a little bit more motivated and excited to see how we can build something also from our team. Thank you very much for the tips how to start and what is the good direction in this. I saw in the comments in our internal group that it would be great if you can have like a more hands-on workshop, guiding us, to build something. There's something that we can see, how we can potentially collaborate in the future. But I think the key message is we should be encouraged to try, like you said, right? So try, observe, build, fail, and then we will see, where we'll get it. So yeah, thank you again very much, Tiffany. Thank you for organizing this session, and we have another one scheduled in 10 days. So looking forward also to dive into the Flock stack of solutions that you basically have, and thank you for basically sharing everything with us.
Thank you so much.
If I may add, I think we can give you some tools guidance. For example, this is the tools that you can try to use if that's helpful. Like a few, tool recommendations. You can try for this, and then you test it and experience. If you have any questions, we can, our team can answer your questions, and we can always talk and exchange insights.
That would be great. Yeah, Marta, the last question is for you. It's from you. Sorry.
No, I would just suggest a Notion, because Notion has free plans for create your own AI agent, and already gives the prompt, so you can prompt in natural language what you want your agent to do, and he will create the script to teach the agent. So then you can add it, and so you can have an idea how to create one, and start by editing, and later on you can create one by scratch if you want.
Great, thank you, Marta. Mr. Flock, maybe your quick feedback on this proposal?
Yeah.
Notion?
I mean, well, you can use any of those agents, right? Just make sure you have another agent to verify it, and also to run it in a sandbox. I'm just not sure if everyone have their own, spare machine to run it. If not, it will be a bit dangerous, but maybe fine. Yeah, because in Notion, you probably can just secure them in just one channel of the Notion file, right? So you don't.
Yes, you can definitely find the context.
Yeah, so that they don't just crazily go over to different other places. Yeah. So thankfully, there are so many different companies that are coming up with different ideas to onboard human beings, easily or easy enough. It's already getting very easy nowadays. I guess maybe 10 days later, when Mo do the session, maybe things will be even easier. Which is already, like, Mo will ask everyone to open a web page, and then you are then all on a decentralized AI internet. So yeah, it's very fun, very cool. Hey,
excellent. Thank you. Yeah, we are a little bit over the time. I know that we have following calls now and work to do. Thank you very much once again, and yeah, see you soon, guys, on the third workshop, which was generously offered by Flock. Thank you, Tiffany. Thank you, Mr. Flock. Thank you, everybody from Flock team, and thank you, team, for participation. Talk soon.
Thank you. Thank you for having us.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. Thanks. Ciao, ciao.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
Bye.
Thank you.